to Mindanao. This is Green Gas Podcast Productions coming at you with a brand new episode.
Maayong adlaw and kamusta to our dear listeners out there. In today's podcast, we are going to talk about something special. This episode features fuels.
We all know that fuels are important. It sustains many things in our society, especially in the transport sector. But the question is, are the fuels we currently use today really the heroes people see them to be? Or do we need to innovate and develop a fuel that will help our environment become greener and cleaner? It seems that we are going to be diving deep into the world of the fuels for this. Is everyone ready?
Well, I sure am. Buckle up, everyone.
Before we start, we've got a surprise for the audience.
Alright, how could I forget? As you all know, our podcast episodes are aimed at educating people about energy. And today's episode features
Clean and Affordable Energy. For this episode, we have 4 special and gorgeous guests. Let us welcome these beautiful young ladies. We have here with us Naik Dueñas, Lehani Andoy, Micaela Lagua, and Cyril Sangilian. Sorry.
Well, hello everyone! Can I just say how much it is an honor to be in your podcast?
Well, it's lovely having such smart and environmentally enthusiastic guests.
So let's talk environment. What is going on in the world right now?
Well, as we all know that as time continues to pass, the environment is also continuously degrading.
Yeah, and so many factors add up to this. Improper waste management, tree logging, the use of energy, but most especially gas emissions.
Oh, don't get me started. The pollution these days is wild.
Gas emissions can come from many things, but the main cause of this is usually from fossil fuels.
Yeah, that's right. For decades up to centuries, humans have produced energy by utilizing fossil fuels. I mean, it's what we mainly rely on when it comes to energy. Since the rise of Industrial Revolution, the use of fossil fuels just boomed, and the smoke coming from vehicles, factories, and the like is mainly what damages the atmosphere.
Exactly. And did you know 78% of greenhouse gases are actually from fossil fuels? Can you imagine?
What? 78%? Wow, well that is a huge number, don't you think? But unfortunately enough, it's probably not even surprising at this point. Fossil fuels emissions causes so much harm to the environment. So much so that it is not just a few parts of the world that are affected, but the globe in its entirety.
The Philippines is also in the center of the equator, making us really feel the consequences of our own actions.
Well, I won't say we don't deserve it.
I know, that's right. Fossil fuel emissions cause so much harm to the environment. And now that global warming and climate change have seemed to not lessen but only progress, shouldn't it be time for people to change?
This is exactly why people are trying to resort to different kinds of energy sources. You know, those that could help us and the environment at the same time. What are your thoughts?
I feel like so many people already talk about energy, renewable energy to be exact, because, well, for obvious reasons, it's a much more eco-friendly alternative. However, I feel like people barely talk about clean and affordable energy.
That is such a good point.
Right? I mean, we're in the Philippines, we're in a third world country, we don't really have much. Whether we like it or not, most energy sources are hard to attain because of how inaccessible some can be and how hard it is to maintain them, especially money-wise.
I so agree. People talk about creating and developing new sources of energy as one of the ways to combat climate change. I mean, of course, there are multiple other solutions, but the energy sector greatly contributes to the damage our environment is facing. And of course, there needs to be a solution, but people talk about this solution as if it's so easy to attain. People sometimes forget to talk about the money, the maintenance, the effort, everything.
Not to mention the fact that our very own island, Mindanao, has remained the poorest of the 3 island groups in the Philippines. We have the highest level of poverty in our country. This just makes solutions like developing new and different kinds of energy sources seems unattainable.
Then can you elaborate more on clean and affordable energy?
Well, of course, we'd be glad to. First, let's talk about the history of the UN SDG, or the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which were developed at the UN Conference on Sustainable Development, held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2012. Did you know that there are 17 goals in total?
Really? That's wonderful. Not to mention we have a lot of global problems currently facing us. Do you think that SDGs can help us at least start the change and end these issues?
Yes, because the ultimate purpose of why SDGs exist is because this idea aims to establish a set of global objectives relating to the political, social, and economic problems. This is why the UN voted 17 objectives applicable universally to transform the world and has promoted them as global goals of sustainable development for the period of 2015 and to 2030, thus replacing the 8 Millennium Development Goals.
My follow-up question. I am really curious about this. Are the SDGs committed to transforming the world?
No, they are not committed because the SDGs are the commitment itself. So we humans need to be educated about SDGs and be committed because it helps us seek to address the most urgent problems around the world, enabling us to respond sustainably against climate change, making us protect and preserve our natural resources in a way that we can also promote peace and prosperity in the world.
To add up to that, based on the article I read in NL Americas, since the start of SDGs, their goal has been achieved using the 2030 Agenda, which has provided a model towards a sustainable world in which all people can not only have productive lives, but also maintain a healthy planet.
It really is amusing how SDGs have the power to help end poverty and other deprivations thanks to the strategies it contains.
However, one SDG we would like to focus on as the highlight of this episode is SDG7, Clean and Affordable Energy.
SDG7, also known as Goal 7, is all about ensuring access to clean and affordable energy. There are actually 5 targets SDG7 aims to achieve: universal access to sustainable energy, increased global percentage of renewable energy, double improvement in energy efficiency, promoted access to research, technology, and investments in clean energy, and expanding and upgrading energy services for developing countries. Additionally, one of their goals is to accomplish all of these targets by 2030.
Really hoping that by 2030 we can all end the use of fossil fuels and utilize our national resources. Can we all imagine what the world can be if we have the ultimate access to affordable and reliable clean energy sources?
Yeah, really looking forward to a healthy planet.
My additional question. Why is clean energy affordable and how can people benefit from it?
Back to what was said a while ago, natural resources are involved in SDG7. This is because clean energy is derived from natural resources, making it renewable and cheap. How can people benefit from it? Obviously, because we consume our own natural resources and we don't have to use fossil fuels. It is much cheaper and safer because all of it is natural.
Oh, now I get it.
However, most renewable energy that people tend to develop aren't really affordable. It takes a lot to maintain them, which is why it is better to use natural resources. Let's not forget the highlight of this episode, fuels. A great example of this is biofuels.
What is that?
Oh, you haven't heard of this?
Surprisingly, no.
Biofuels are simply just fuels that are derived from living matter. You can get it from crop, grass, animal waste, or even oil.
And what makes biofuels so great is that not only you get it from literally almost everywhere, the gas emissions from biofuels are actually less harmful than fossil fuels.
Plus, Another advantage is that it is much more easy to produce, unlike fossil fuels which take a long time. As we discussed a while ago, the UN SDGs aim to solve urgent problems currently occurring around the world. One of those problems is that the use of gasoline or fuels in general, as the fuels utilized by gasoline stations, vehicles, factories, and the like are all forms of fossil fuels.
It's not a secret that fossil fuels are an expensive traditional source of fuels. But what's much worse is that it is greatly harmful to the earth. That is why biofuels are actually a great natural and affordable source of energy or fuel. Biofuel will be such an efficient and much better alternative to fossil fuels, and it will be great if people started using them instead.
Last but not the least, SDG7 targets to improve and have the ultimate access to sustainable energy, which is why biofuels as a form of renewable energy is a great idea, as it aims to end the use of fossil fuel and utilize biofuels instead to make our planet healthy and also reduce expenses.
That's brilliant. Aside from the fact that it is natural and accessible, it can also aid us financially. It is like killing not just two, but multiple birds with one stone.
Still want to dig deeper though. Mind if you discuss its consumption and production?
We would love to.
Ever since the Industrial Revolution, our technological advancement increased drastically, and because of that, our lives have become much easier, convenient, and comfortable. We no longer have to expose ourselves to danger just to eat and get materials or resources we need. This is the lifestyle that the current generations are used to, right?
Compared to our ancestors, we really have a convenient lifestyle. I wouldn't survive for long if I was there.
I think that's most of us, and on the surface level, nothing seems wrong. All of you that's talking and listening here, that's what we experience. But when we dig deeper, we get to see the sacrifices buried underneath just to achieve this lifestyle we have.
So it's like an iceberg, huh? We only see the tip of the issue, and what's underneath are rarely spoken about unless it's presented in the main media.
Exactly. What is underneath are sacrifices that include cutting more trees down, flattening land to give way for buildings and roads, drastic increase in garbage disposal, transportation emission, and many more.
I see black smoke from jeepneys very often. And there are so many cars out there.
And what's surprising is that since we need more energy to power our technology, it's shocking that we're using a non-renewable resource, which is fossil fuels, to supply 80% of the world's energy.
It's like a time bomb then. Why are we using unlimited resources for the majority of our energy when we have renewable resources like biofuel as an alternative?
Fossil fuels are energy dense. This characteristic makes it have an advantage over other sources of energy.
That means a little bit of that fuel can produce a whole lot of energy, right?
Yes, that's why it's preferable. However, fossil fuels emit harmful effects to our environment that contribute to climate change and many pollutants. Because of this, to advocate for renewable, clean, and affordable energy while also reducing our fossil fuel consumption.
We should slowly convert to biofuels. It's gonna be inconvenient to some people in some scenarios, but it's a little sacrifice compared to the consequences if we continue using fossil fuels. All of us should have access to affordable, decent, and safe places to live. The money that this market is taking out has to be invested in long-term solutions like repairs and renewable energy sources, as well as immediate assistance for those who lack access to energy.
You're right. If you want to improve our situation, we should start by looking at what the problem is and then addressing it. Instead of throwing used oil, we should find a way to make it useful, like donating it to a biofuel plant. Those who have vehicles should use it in moderation and make sure it doesn't emit harmful emissions.
Taking walks now and then is healthy, and one less car from the road already helps with lessening car emissions.
I think it's quite obvious for the most of us here that for now, Earth is our one and only home. Of course, it provides us air to breathe, food to eat, land to settle, and plant our crops on, and everything else. It provides for us to survive and function. I'm just reminding all of you in case some of you forgot about this fact. Yet, if you look around us, our efforts in preserving, helping, and fixing our only home dwarfs the damages we caused along the way.
Well, there are organizations and groups that focus on this issue, right?
Well, yes, but my point is we're too reliant with them. They're shouldering a universal issue that should be everyone's responsibility and should act, no matter how small, to make our home better.
And how should we start that? Not all of us have the power to make more organizations or to do something about it that will change the situation.
No. All of you have the power, even if small. I do understand that feeling, but those actions, I'll say it again. To start with, you can use reusable things, using less plastic as possible, using reusable bags when shopping, and basically being as eco-friendly as you can be.
You hear that, folks? Everything needs a beginning, and that can be you. You don't need to start big to do something relevant.
Alright, and now that we've dissected all that, it's time to ask the million-dollar question.
Oh, what might this be?
Of course, at the end of the day, people will always be greedy. Humans will always be dissatisfied. They will take and they will take. But what we don't realize is that we need nature. Nature does not need us. We should not damage something that did nothing but take care of us.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's not just nature that will suffer, it'll be us. When nature suffers, we do too. We are the one to suffer the consequences of our own actions. We are going to feel the same pain and struggle we inflict upon the environment. So it's a given that the responsibility of fixing these things and the responsibility of taking action falls in our hand. Now, our question for you is that how can we help?
Well, of course, there's going to be multiple answers and solutions to this. I mean, we've had multiple answers and solutions for so long. It's just that the people isn't acting, or maybe some people are unable to.
But in our case, regarding biofuels, there certainly is.
Go on.
Okay, well, we all love good food, right?
Yes.
Of course we do, especially us Filipinos. Which also means we love cooking, right?
I thought so too.
Well, nevertheless, then there's food. There's gonna be a lot of cooking and a lot of ingredients, the appliances, the materials, all of those. But one dangerous item is oil.
Now, we don't want to generalize because we all know that not everyone does this, but some people, especially majorly privileged ones, tend to waste things. Unless you need something for something else, you're going to keep it. The same goes for oil. If you know that you will need it for another time, you will keep it. But there are some people who don't do that, and some people who throw away their oil once it's dirty and can't be used for other food or other time. Or maybe if you're very thrifty and on a budget, you'll also choose to keep it.
That is, in fact, true. There are many instances where people just mindlessly throw away their used oil. It happens so often, it feels like it's become a culture.
It's definitely one of those things where you know what you're doing is wrong, but you do it regardless because it benefits you.
Right. After cooking one meal, some people just throw it away. It's as if people don't know how harmful oil can be when just thrown out into the environment.
I know, right? I mean, have you not heard about how dangerous oil spills can be? They harm people, animals, and nature.
And not just big oil spillages are harmful. If you drain your oil down the sink, it'll just cause clogging and other issues. If you throw it in your yard, it'll just seep through the ground, somehow find its way into your sewage system. Million liters or gallons of water can easily be contaminated by just a single drop of oil, and it becomes unusable. Or even worse, people throwing it into bodies of water. Ladies and gentlemen, please, this is very, very, very harmful to the environment, especially to the life under the water, such as animals and the plants.
Additionally, it can kill things or animals that are needed to keep the ecosystem balanced. There's really nothing good that comes out of throwing used oil away. In fact, it just worsens things, yet it's such a common practice.
So, what do you suggest the people to do? I mean, if they keep used oils, even if it can be used, where should it go? Should it just be kept in their containers until it piles up?
That question brings us back to the reason why we're here and why we talked about biofuels. As what we have discussed earlier, biofuels can be easily produced as it is just converted from any living matter. It can be derived from plants, crops, and oil. So instead of throwing away used oil and damaging the environment along with it, we can save used oil and utilize it as a means of saving the environment and ourselves.
How so?
There are actually 13 biofuel plants in the Philippines. In Davao, there is one. After saving all your used oil, instead of throwing it away into nature, you can simply save it and donate it there. They will then use the donated oil to turn it into biofuel, which can then utilize as much more eco-friendly alternative to fossil fuels.
This biofuel plant is located at Davao City. There's also a biofuel plant located at Novaliches, Quezon City.
How about those who can travel to these biofuel plant locations for personal reasons?
Well, they can hand it to someone who can, and they can take care of it and take it there where it is highly appreciated.
Wow, who knew producing biofuels and saving the environment can be done at the same time? It's quite easy too.
Which is exactly why we urge everyone to practice this as we help ourselves and the environment along with it.
If it's something that's helpful, it would be really great if everyone knew about it. How aware would you say the public is of fossil fuels?
Well, a lot of companies are actually aware already. It's just the general public that isn't. I think what's missing is for biofuels to be more featured in news and to be more talked about, because what is the point of all of this if people don't even know about it? How can they utilize the fuels produced by these biofuel plants?
And our goal here is to make people be aware of it, the damage fossil fuels causes, and how biofuels are much better, and how we can all contribute to creating a society that relies on biofuels instead of fossil fuels.
Hey, this biofuel thing actually seems pretty neat.
Yeah, you think so?
Biofuels are a really big help in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and promoting sustainability.
Absolutely. And the great thing about this is that it can also be derived from plants.
Did you know that biofuels can also reduce carbon emissions up to 85% compared to traditional fossil fuels?
At this point, we should really just replace fossil fuels with it, you know?
Well, that is the goal.
There are actually multiple cases where people have successfully converted plants into biofuel. Those that were used were hyacinth and napier grass. There are actually news videos and articles about these.
Huh. Well, aren't these people just well informed? How about you in the audience? What do you think can you do?
Well, luckily there's actually plenty, and we learned that thanks to our guests from today's episode. Once again, thank you so much for guesting in our podcast. It's refreshing and great to see other students eager to help the environment as much as we do.
The pleasure is all ours. It's also great to be given the opportunity to spread awareness and educate about this topic.
We're glad you feel that way. Thank you so much for sticking with us to the end of our podcast, guys. We hope that you learned something, and not just that, apply what you learned in real life.
We hope that people paid attention to today's episode. We really encourage everyone to go green and take care of the environment. We encourage everyone to not throw away used oil and donate them, just as we discussed, as this one of the little ways we can help, especially as people with not much power.
Yup, a quick recap for our audience. Throwing away used oils can be dangerous for the environment, and it is a wasted opportunity to produce biofuels from a readily available resource.
Remember, Earth is the only planet with chocolate, so we better save it. And that's a wrap. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye!